There are several resources, let's say, that help us to understand what happens with a spiritual being, with a human being, when he or she leaves its physical body. First of all, we do have near-death experiences, which were described in a lot of interesting articles and interesting books by people who entered a state of coma, who had an accident or who had a very sudden health problem, and in a way or another they entered an altered state of consciousness and they almost died physically. But happily for them, after having this experience in the astral plane, in the end they decided to come back in their physical body and to keep on living their current life. Due to their extraordinary experiences, they were able to tell us what they saw, what they perceived, what they felt during these hours or even days of leaving this special state of consciousness between worlds, let's say. Then the second very important source about what happens after death that we have is regression therapy. Regression in past lives or regression in life between lives. And there are a lot of important authors and books on this topic, but I would particularly mention once again Michael Newton's books. Michael Newton was a great American psychologist and a very, very important pioneer in hypnotherapy and in working with regressions. And he left us such an important legacy about his case studies and about what his clients described when they left their physical body in previous lives and what happened exactly in this period between the two earthly incarnations. And then of course we might also have channeling experiences in case there are persons who are connected to higher beings from higher dimensions, who communicate through them and who share with them and implicitly with us a lot of important truths about experience in the invisible world, in the subtle and higher dimensions. So these are the most important resources that we have until now. What is very, very important to understand and to underline is that all these resources, written in different periods of time and in different countries of this world, and through these different, let's say, kind of experiences using these different tools, describe almost the same process, the same feelings, the same important steps. So this validates the fact that with all of us happens the same when we leave our physical bodies and we start our fascinating and complex journey towards the upper realms. Because as I have already described in other episodes of our podcast, the universe created by the divine is very complex, infinitely large. And I created a kind of, let's say, amusing comparison with a block of flats, because our Father's world is structured in different dimensions of different energetic vibrations, and we might create a comparison with the floors of a building with many flats. So our physical material world, where our planet is situated, is here in the dense vibrations, somewhere between the third and the fourth dimensions, so between the third and the fourth floor, let's say, if we take into account our comparison. But when we leave our physical body, we start our ascension, our journey towards the upper floors or the upper dimensions of the universe created by the divine. What happens? So, we have a physical body, but as I have already explained in our podcast, we have a lot of very important invisible or subtle bodies, structures that support our physical body and that work with it in a very close relationship. So we have the mental body, the emotional body, the astral body, the energetic body, the causal or karmic body, and so on. When death approaches, when physical death approaches, these subtle bodies, which generally speaking in a natural and in a healthy state are completely centered with our physical body and with our physical spine, and are like, let's say, matryoshka Russian dolls, or like the leaves of an onion. When we start approaching the death point, for someone who has clairvoyance, these subtle bodies start already their ascension and are no more completely, let's say, centered with the physical body. One of the first bodies that starts changing and enters in a kind of dissolution is the mental body. This is why when someone approaches death, you might notice that he or she might start having a quite chaotic discussion with you, that they might start mixing information, and they might seem very confused from the mental point of view, because the mental body is the first one to start changing in order to prepare this passing, this transformation towards other realms. What happens also is the fact that the astral and the energetic, the etheric body start growing in dimension and start connecting already to the other dimensions. This is why you might notice that people approaching death might perceive the presence of angels, of deceased loved ones from the family, or might start doing a kind of recollection of the life they are just finishing, because they are already somewhere in the middle between our physical material world and the other realms. When the physical body dies, immediately after this, the subtle, the invisible bodies start their ascension, start rising and start detaching from the physical body. And in the Christian religion, there are important traditions linked to the idea of the 40 days that pass from the physical death. And when when 40 days are reached, there are important ceremonies held in church for the one who has just passed away. Why 40 days? Because generally speaking, from ancient times, people have understood and have felt that approximately 40 terrestrial days, and I stress this idea of terrestrial days because, of course, that for a spiritual being, time passes in a completely different way and with a completely different speed. So for us, seen from our dimension, approximately 40 days after the physical death, the spirit wanders in the astral plane. The astral plane is the first dimension, let's say, connected with the physical world. So in this invisible and astral plane, the spirit wanders around in order to visit his home, all the places he or she loved very much, and of course in order to visit all the beings for whom he or she had very strong feelings. This is a period of time when the spirit might also try to communicate with all the dear ones who are left on earth, in order to ensure them that he or she is all right, that he or she keeps on living, of course, but on other plane. It's the period of time when he or she tries to caress, to some extent, the ones who suffer and who are left behind. But of course, the ones who are left behind might feel or not this contact, and this contact might be on a conscious or rather an unconscious plane. And then it's also a period of making some important conclusions, because the spirit starts to see his or his life, and to reach some important conclusions about what was important and what was not important, about the most important moments he or she lived, and so on. And when the spirit feels ready, and when he or she feels he has said goodbye and he is ready to detach, he or she starts the real ascension to the upper dimensions, to what we might call home or heavens, or to the upper dimensions, which are frequently seen as a very bright light. This is why even in the descriptions made by those who approached near-death experiences, they tend to see a kind of tunnel, because our physical world is, let's say, seen in darker colors, and the other upper realms are seen as very bright and full of light universes. So this is why they perceive a very strong light, and they head toward this light. Quite frequently, this ascension is accompanied and supported by their very important light beings, who attend and who support the spirit even in his last moments of living in a physical body. These beings might be members of the family of the deceased, and they might be members who have already passed away during the previous years and who came back in order to help. We might speak about spiritual guides, of course, about angels, archangels, so beings of very high dimensions who come to bring their help and to support this transition to the other realms, and even, of course, the higher self of the person who dies might accompany this process of transition. Once the spirit reaches the upper realms, he or she starts a period of, let's say, relaxation, and of let's say, making the most important points on the life he has just lived on earth. Generally speaking, the moments in the upper realms start with a kind of energetic shower, let's say, because the being needs to clean his or her energy, and especially the traumas connected with the death moment and all the important traumas that were left in his or her physical body following his terrestrial or her terrestrial life. After this period of cleaning, let's say, his or her energetic field, starts a period of, as I have mentioned, a period of reflection on the life he or she has just lived, on having some important conclusions, on understanding what was difficult to live and what was easy to live, what lessons were completely integrated and what lessons are still important to work on and to keep on understanding in the next terrestrial lives. Of course, that after a shorter or a longer period of time in the upper realms, the spirit might choose to come back on Earth, to choose a new body, a new family, a new life script, in order to continue his or her important lessons and implicitly his or her evolution. Or if the spirit is already very, very evolved, he or she might choose to interrupt this incarnation series and to go up in the even higher dimensions of the universe created by the divine. So this is all in all the main idea. These are the main steps following the physical death of a human being on Earth. But unfortunately, sometimes a spirit does not take this, let's say, usual route in order to make the transition to the upper realms. And he or she must be to some extent blocked and trapped in the astral plane closely connected to Earth. And he or she might not manage to reach right away the upper dimensions, or what we might call home. And we will see in the next episode of our podcast what are exactly the main blockages that might make a being to become earthbound, to become trapped in the dense dimensions and to go home, let's say, later.